Welcome back, Atlanta, to another episode of Atlanta Unplugged. I'm your host, Steve Paul, and once again, we have another special one today. But before we get into this guest that we have today, I just want y'all to make sure that y'all tap in because this platform is for the artists, it's for the one out there actually putting in the work in the communities of Atlanta and abroad, the ones that whether you're doing music, whether you're doing business, entrepreneur, this platform is here for you. You know, spoken word, all that good stuff, and you can see it in our timeline. Go check out our videos. But let's get into it today with my guest right here, the Kingmaker. What's happening?
Hey.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for coming
to
on
be
the
here.
show. Yes, happy to have you. So, the Kingmaker. I know everybody wants to know what's up with that. What's up with the name Kingmaker? Who's the Kingmaker?
I am. Great question. The title, the Kingmaker, was actually given to me by a mentor years ago, and I didn't know what it meant at first. I actually had to go Google it, and after I Googled it, I immediately got what she saw that I didn't see in myself.
Okay.
And I would say it's probably safe to say that the people who follow what I'm doing, that are a part of my queendom, and probably even definitely all of my exes would 100% say and agree that I'm the kingmaker. My whole focus of why I'm doing what I'm doing and what I'm doing is to help to elevate and expand people to claim their crowns and take their thrones and to operate in life and business in the way that we're truly meant to experience our optimal potential. So I
Okay.
change the way that people think.
Okay.
I change what people believe
Mm-hmm.
through a process I call mindset alchemy, and therefore they are able to transform their lives.
Okay. Okay. So the Kingmaker. So that is you and your business line.
Yes. So I actually own a corporation called the Kingmaker Enterprises. Within the Kingmaker Enterprises, I have five, soon to be 10 divisions, serving currently five crucial industries. One of which is personal and spiritual development,
Mm-hmm.
which deals with mindset, deals with empowerment, inspiration, and all the things we were just talking about.
Right.
So that's one of the divisions. I also have a division for fashion and accessories. And I must say that I'm so digging your Atlanta Unplugged shirt and swag. It's all really,
Thank you.
really
Thank
nice.
you. You know what I mean? Y'all. I've been hearing that y'all been wanting to know where to get the merch and everything like that. Right now, you just got to DM us. You know what I mean, and then you could possibly get you a special fly. You know, Atlanta Unplugged right here. And thank you for the plug. You know what I'm saying?
My pleasure. Maybe you'll even give them something for free if they share this enough, right? This might be a good opportunity for them to get a free gift.
Yeah. Hey, maybe. Hey, D, you heard that right?
So fashion and accessories. I have a clothing line called Absolutely Ruthless.
Absolutely ruthless. Okay.
Absolutely ruthless, and if we want to get into that, I'll tell you the story behind that. It's an interesting story, and I have a clothing line that's up and coming called Gods and Kings,
Gods and kings.
and then I also have my jewelry line Royally Adorned. So I don't know if y'all can see this, but I'm wearing lime jade right now, and I love that it's a protection stone that's all about helping to empower self preservation.
Okay.
And the biggest thing with Royally Adorned was created for a couple reasons, but a lot of people wear beads, right? With my brand, not only do the stones, the semi-precious gemstones, look different, but it's more so about what they're going to do for you. The
Right.
focal point is about the benefits to the wearer. I grew up in a household with crystals all over the place, and nowadays people are just like getting on to the crystals, and they're just finding out about the crystals. But I grew up
Yeah,
where
right,
crystals was
right.
like a part of my everyday
Right,
life.
right.
So from
Let's,
a very
So tell us about that. Tell us about your background and everything that got you to this point to wanting to even being the kingmaker, to even presenting the crystals and everything like that. Your knowledge and your wisdom base and everything. Tell us how you even got to that point. Your background.
So, I would have to 100% give credit to both of my parents. So, my father is Abbas Rasul. So, for those who know who he is, he was the National Secretary for Elijah Muhammad. And um, he had a very unique parenting style with us. And he also started a non for profit when we were very young. And it was all about empowerment of our people. And kind of taking a hint from what the Nation of Islam had done back in the day with having the independence, um, and creating a dynamic where young people like myself at the time could, outside of the traditional school experience, could learn tangible business skills. And oh my God, by the time I was 16, I had managed multiple businesses. I was more qualified before people normally graduate from high school than people are after years of college. And I 100% attribute that to the non-for-profit and my upbringing. So I did internships in different places around the U.S. And it was a very, very beneficial experience. I learned a whole lot from that. And then my mom, she's actually a spiritual teacher and light energy worker. I like to call her the quantum architect. she deals I deal with the way people think, and she deals more with like the tangible energy dynamic. And I think mostly because of her is what connected me to that aspect of what I teach and what I do now. Like, I don't actually do energy work, but I teach people around how energy and frequency and vibration relates to them in their lives.
Now, do you solely go off of it by just because it's a family orientated thing, or do you find yourself really understanding it in
Oh,
you
okay.
coming
Okay.
it's coming from you?
So when I mentioned that I had a very unique upbringing, oh, my dad taught us that there were no ceilings. That there were no ceilings, and I think that that's probably one of the most what's the word I'm looking for? Important things in my one of the most important things, but also one of the things that needs to be calibrated in for our people and our children growing up is that we we raise our children with too many limitations. And it's not just us as parents, because I'm a single mom. I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 11-year-old. So it's not.
Can y'all believe it? Look at her. Look at her.
Yes, it's true. It's true. It's not just from the parents. It's society, right? Society teaches our children. Schools teach our children as much as we do, right? So growing up knowing that there was no limit to what I could achieve, what I could do, and seeing the contrast of that in a lot of our communities, that's one of the biggest things that I feel like that needs to be changed. But growing up that way caused me to have a deep rooted desire to help our people.
Right.
So that's number one. Because the non for profit was geared towards our people. It wasn't like there weren't other nationalities and other ethnicities involved, but the focus was we as a people need to have independence. We need to have our own everything, right? So
Right.
that's one thing. And then on my mom's side of the equation, the energetic, the energy, the frequency, the vibration, the universe, all those things, it opened up my mind and my understanding of life in a way that your average person still doesn't know or isn't aware of.
Right.
And because of that, and I mean, I live this every day. Everything that I teach to the people that I personally work with, either it's in my group mindset alchemy immersion or one-on-one or on my YouTube videos or my podcast, I'm never teaching something that I have not lived, that I can't prove and don't know for 100% certain is true. So all it did growing up was provide me another path to explore and experiment, and I did all of that.
Right.
I explored, I experimented, so now I can talk about it. And in the beginning, I was nervous because I was like, "Well, don't everybody already know this?" And I realized they don't. And what I'm doing is necessary.
Yeah. Now, those that don't know, you should do your research and everything. You have the Nation of Islam out there now. The Nation of Islam being ran by Farrakhan, but they were all under Elijah Muhammad. So her father was the national secretary during the time of Elijah Muhammad, and I got a book right here just so y'all to understand this is actually real. So if y'all, this is one of the books right here that her father wrote. This is part one of
Four. Part one of four.
part book one of four books called the Theology of Time. So uh, just her father alone being in that position and being that great and everything, you know, I could see where that
Influence.
influence you, but it's in you. It's like you come from the bloodline.
Absolutely. No question about it.
So what are some of the things that that your father shared with you that stayed with
Impacts me and still
Mhm.
stays with me today. I would say, I mean, what I stated earlier in terms of like the not having a ceiling, to be really being clear that I can have and be and do whatever I want. That's probably one of the most impactful things. Um, my father was big on being all that he was, like all of that. And some people and people who are close to me have heard some stories about my dad and some of the like wild, like unbelievable things that he has done, and I mean in a good way. And but he was this quiet. He was a projector too, which I don't know if I ever told you. But
Well, now you got to let the people understand
what that is.
What that is.
Okay.
Being a projector.
Side note. For those who have been following me for a while, you may know that I am a big supporter of human design. Human design is a system that helps you. So people are mostly familiar with like astrology. Some people know about numerology. Human design combines Eastern and Western astrology, the ancient tree design of the ancient Kabbalah, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, physics, and one other science that is escaping me right now. So it is the most comprehensive system that I have found, period, to tell you about yourself. But what I love about it, in contrast to like astrology that just tells you, okay, you're a Virgo, you're a this, you're a that, these are your traits, it gives you the path to live your life with least resistance. So it like literally gives you the path of least resistance, which I think is huge, because like, why do we think struggle is necessary? That's a whole, I have a whole podcast episode called Fuck Struggle. Like I'm so against it. But the human design, the cornerstone of it is the aura system. People have heard about auras, like, oh, you have a nice aura, a good aura, you have a bad aura. But they don't understand that just like there's 4 major blood types, there's 4 major aura types. So that you have generators and manifesting generators that make up 70% of the population. You have projectors, which is what we are. My dad was as well. Then you have manifestors, which are only, so projectors are 20, 22%. Manifestors are 8%, I believe, 8 or 9%. And reflectors are 1%. So when you learn who you are, I mean, it gives you everything from how you're designed to function in relationships to how you're designed to eat, to what environments are best for you to live in, to what sense you're most connected to that helps you kind of differentiate and interact with the world around you.
And this is all a part of the formula with the Kingmaker.
So I do have everything's very on theme. So on my website, thekingmakerqueen.com, there is a service called Excalibur Sword Training. And for years I did human design readings, and if occasionally I'll still do one, but what I would rather do and what I enjoy is actually doing a reading for someone where I take the information about their chart and then coach them on how to utilize that information to expand or to exalt their life or business. So it's an ongoing, like once a week type of session for a month, where they get time with me where we can really dig into how to utilize their design specifically to enhance their lives.
Is there a big community out there that actually know about
Human
this?
design, yes, there is. I mean, there's all kinds of, and you can find like groups for there's Facebook groups. There's things on Instagrams. Like there's one of the projector ones I like. So for you is I think projectors in invited or Projector Society, one of those. So
Mm-hmm.
you can actually, since you're a projector, you can go on there and there's memes and there's all kind of there's trainings. There's
Mm-hmm.
stuff on YouTube. So you can it's a very robust science.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, but my whole bringing the whole thing about projector up in reference to your question about my dad is he moved in such a way that you could not ignore his presence in any room, but he did not like he wasn't in people's faces being like I'm doing this and I'm doing this. He was so
Right.
not
Right.
flashy,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like everybody knew who he was.
That
And
aura, the energy
yes,
just projected out. Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
And I always loved that. And it's like just to be that person that you like that's someone who just carries that energy, and he had that about him, and I think that it was very impactful to
Mm-hmm.
see that in motion, and
Right.
to even
Right.
hear people who knew my father talk about him
Mm-hmm.
and tell stories.
Do
So it
you
was
do you
insane.
still get any of that? Does anybody uh, contact you or the family and still speak on your father?
Well, okay, so you know how you're like driving down like the street and there's someone out in like a bow tie and a suit and they're selling bean pies or a newspaper.
Right. Right.
When I have had the current misfortune of like running over, running, like rolling down my window or having rolled down, somebody walked up to me, they will be trying to like educate me on. And I'm just like, let me tell you. Let me just tell you who my dad was, and we can end this conversation now. And then they're like, "Oh my God!" Da, 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 and it starts this whole thing. But I'm like, there's not really anything you're going to educate me on in that arena.
Right.
And even
Right.
though I'm not a practicing Muslim, the things that I could take from that experience, the need for independence, and I'll go on a little bit of a tangent about this. One of the biggest benefits that I personally feel like the Nation of Islam provided in that time was to give empowerment to our people right out of slavery. Like
Right. Right.
we
Right.
needed to know that we had the ability to be kings and
Right.
queens
Right.
or gods. I mean, however you want to, however
Mm-hmm.
you associate that information. But we were right out of being oppressed. We were right out of being enslaved. We needed to know who we are.
Right. Right.
And I feel like that movement served a extremely people could disagree with the way it happened, the faith, the religion, but I'm a person who I can be looking at anything and I can find the positivity in it. I can
Mm-hmm.
find the good. I can find the right. I can see the purpose that was served.
Right.
And I don't think it serves the same purpose now. I think it's a little bit different now. I think some things that are being said are valid, but I think that in that time it was so necessary that we have a voice and
Mm-hmm.
that we see our own selves united and powerful, and that we know that that we are capable of creating our own independence. So,
Now, you have an episode on your channel.
mhm.
Um, yeah, right. Which one? Well, the episode is titled "Oppression."
The privilege of oppression.
The privilege of oppression. Now, when you shared that title with me, uh, you know, it struck me because I'm like, okay, how do we have privilege
In
with
oppression.
oppression? So,
Great question. So I titled it that because I wanted it to. I mean, it does explain exactly what we talk about in the video, but I wanted it to grab people's attention. I
mm-hmm.
wanted to be like, wait, what are you even talking about, right? So for those who are not familiar, I'm gonna have to give a little backstory here, but for those who are not familiar with what I do, everything that I do, even all the divisions in the Kingmaker Enterprises, which I didn't get into all of them, are about some form of elevation and empowerment, right?
Mm-hmm.
The personal and spiritual development brand that sometimes shows up as the Kingmaker 444, like Jay-Z's album 444,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
is my entire focal point is to empower people and to change the way that they think about everything. One of those things. So my tagline for the personal and spiritual development brand is become the architect of your own reality.
Mm.
So the tools that I teach, the tips that I give, I go on Instagram pretty much daily and giving, and on TikTok, and I give tips for creating magic in your life. So at the Kingmaker Queen, and on Instagram and TikTok. When in within these, I am essentially giving people what they can do, regardless of any other person in their life, anybody else that they interact with, what you can do to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
So many people blame or sh- um, shuffle responsibility for our failed relationships, our financial situations, our whatever it is in life onto this other person. So whether it's our parents, our significant others, our boss, the job,
Mm-hmm.
white people, God, the devil. We are so like in Bruce Almighty, when Morgan Freeman was up on the ladder, and he was like, the problem is that people are always looking up.
Mm. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't look within themselves. So part of what I do as the kingmaker is to show you your power.
Mm.
And
That's
if
dope.
you realize that you are powerful, then how are you able to be a victim? So I highly recommend. So I'm going to answer Steve's question, but I highly recommend that you look at some of the other videos on the Claim Your Crown podcast, which is available on Spotify and iTunes and Google Podcasts. And I also recommend going to my YouTube channel, which is the Kingmakers Royal Theater on YouTube, and watch some of the videos, because all of this leads up to what we're about to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we have time for me to like really get into all that, but a significant amount of people understand the concept of manifestation, right? You
Mm-hmm.
hear people talking about the secret and law of attraction. And all of that is legit real. Like legit real, the truth. And like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I live it every day. So if you are fundamentally on the same page that you become a magnet for whatever you experience in life, then that means anything that goes right or wrong, you're the cause.
Mm.
You in your life,
Right.
not other
Right.
people's
Right.
life, but in your life,
Mm-hmm.
because you're the architect of your reality. So if you have a failed relationship, if you keep attracting the same type of partner that doesn't interact with you correctly, that's not on them. You were a magnet for that experience. There's some trauma you need to heal. There's some things you need to do, and I've went through that myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one example. If you're not making the kind of money that you want to make, if you're not living, you have some form of limitation, which I have a whole series called Set the Motherfucking Box on Fire. And I'm all about burning those limitations to the ground. Because
Okay.
we live, so briefly, we live within these imaginary boundaries that don't even
Mm-hmm.
exist. We climb into these imaginary boxes. We get super comfortable. We got a 60-inch flat screen in there. We walking around with no pants on. We done ordered pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And these are boxes that our parents created for us. These are boxes that society has created for us. These are our own fears.
So
And
okay. So you're saying that as far as these are boxes that your parents created for, society created for, would that does that impact everything falling on yourself?
yes and no. It impacts why you may have been there. But at the
Mm-hmm.
point where you are able, when you're an adult specifically,
Mm-hmm.
children can do this too, but when you're an adult specifically, you are responsible for your own stuff. So I say to people all the time, like, we'll like you, let's just say you just got out of college, you're about to, build your own house, start your whole life. This is like you going to your parents' house,
Mm-hmm.
going to grab all their shit from their garage, all their boxes, and then going and laying it as the foundation before they pour the concrete on your new house.
Right.
At some point, you have to think for yourself. At
Mm-hmm.
some point, you have to decide what life you were willing to live. So many people are just reliving their parents' old drama, their parents' own crap.
So what about the phrase "it takes two to tango"?
I mean, okay. So, are we? How do we want to talk about this? Do we want to talk about this from a relationship perspective, or do we want to talk about it from a different? What kind of perspective do you want me to answer that
Well,
question
those are
from?
just questions that come to my head as far as anything that happens is on the individual, on the person. Now, um, but like you were saying with with your upbringing and everything, a lot of that affects on the decisions that you make,
As an
even
adult.
going into the
But that's
adulthood.
why I do what I do.
Mhm.
If people don't, we talked about earlier that one of the biggest things that I feel like needs to be recalibrated, restructured, refocused in our community is this concept that we have these limitations, that we have these, ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
We are willingly climbing into the boxes that society, that our parents, that we have created for ourselves, and we're comfortable. My job is to burn them to the ground. And on the ashes of this burnt down, boxes of limitation, we will erect the throne from which you will offer your inspiration to the world.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't get there if you don't believe you can do it.
Right.
Now, I have had some, in the course of my lifetime, and I think this is probably true of most people, I've had some, like, really messed up things happen to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not as bad as, there's a lot of people who have experienced much worse, so I'm in no way, shape, or form, like, trying to take away from anybody else's pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every single thing that I have experienced, I can point back to how I attracted it, how I was a magnet for this experience, how I accepted it. I put up with it. I stayed there. Whatever it was, right? There's a whole list. And I can go back and be like, or even I made myself a target. So this is a conversation I've had recently. Like, somebody intends to do harm to someone. Or someone is out, someone who needs or wants to lash out at somebody. Somebody wants to cuss somebody out. Somebody's angry, right? At one point, I could specifically look at this circumstance and see that the reason the person did what they did was because I was in an energy and vibration of being of something similar at the time. I had already had an experience that I didn't like, and instead of me taking that contrast and going, nope, I'm unavailable, I'm unwilling to entertain me being and feeling this way anymore, I lived in it.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in that energy. And when this other person, so I became a magnet for people who were wanting to now regurgitate or vomit their bullshit all over me. In other words, I became a target. I put a target on my back for being in that energy. So back to your question of the privilege of oppression. When you are a victim, when you identify as a victim, whether it's us as in social and racial injustice, or in a relationship, or as a human being, dealing with whatever you're dealing with in life, or even as women who have been mistreated for so long, right? If we identify as victims, then our privilege is that we don't have any responsibility for it.
Oh, so I see what you're saying. So the privilege of pointing the finger and laying all that on somebody else and not taking accountability for your part in the whole situation, that's
the privilege of oppression.
The privilege of
because I can go,
yeah.
I'm a victim, this person shouldn't have done this to me, this man shouldn't have done this, my employer shouldn't have done this, my parents should have taught me something different. I can do that, or I can change my life. But there's no purpose in me being a victim unless I feel powerless. If I honestly believe that I can't do anything to change my life, then I'm a victim. I'm identifying as a victim, but I'm not here. I am here to help people identify with their power. You cannot be empowered and be a victim at the same time. You have to choose one. Pick a side. Do you want to be a victim, or do you want to be empowered? And if you think about it, if we did not have the ability to create our own reality, then we're essentially going, well, whatever happens, happens. If it's God's will.
Well, a lot of people.
If the devil comes after me, then he might get me. Like, that is a horrible way to live life. When God infused you with his power, you literally have access to the forces of creation at your beck and call. But so many of us do not take advantage of them.
So
we don't understand it.
So where do you think the problem lies with what's going on today? Because we have a lot of uprisings now. You know what I mean, with the Black Lives Movement, even beyond that, to where now you got the LBGT movement and all type of movements coming up. Asian hate crimes and all that. So because they're claiming to be victims and everything like that. So where do you see the problem lies? What's going on in today's society?
So I'm glad that you made that a broad question, because you identify like several different groups, ethnicities, The privilege of oppression, I specifically address it to Black people. And I talk about the fact, so I watched, I don't know if you saw it, did you see the Judas and the Black Messiah?
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
did.
So watch the privilege of oppression on YouTube. Share it with others. This idea needs to go viral. Um, I talk about how when I went to go see the movie, I was crying at the end.
Mm.
And I realized for in that 5 minutes, however long, I was feeling like a victim.
Mm.
I was watching that going, oh my God, those terrible white people. Like, how could they? Oh my God, this is horrible. And they were still horrible. Like, let's be clear.
Yeah.
I am in no way, shape, or form exonerating anyone's fucked up behavior. That's not something that I'm going, oh, well, they don't have responsibility for it. But at the same time, the mentality that I had of, oh my God, look what they did to us, that makes me a victim. That puts me in a mentality that someone else has control and has power, and that they are responsible for my reality.
That's deep. And you saying that because I was pondering on the ideal of, they put a lot of those movies out now. Just recently, they've been putting a lot of those movies, slave movies and, the Black Messiah thing.
Unfortunately, it's perpetuating the wrong message.
Right.
Like, it was an educational movie for me because I learned about things that happened during the Black Panther movement that I didn't know, right? But it still it makes black people watch that, and not just black people, even white people will look at it and be like, oh my God, look what they did to them. Like, it makes everybody take this approach of they look at us as victims. When we think we're victims, people treat us like victims. We will continue to be victims. We will continue to be oppressed. We will continue to be singled out and things done to us because we are in an energy and a frequency of being a victim. We become a target when we believe that we are this thing. And what you have to understand about energy and frequency and all this for people who don't believe in all this stuff, we live in a 3-dimensional world. There is no physical without the spiritual and without the mental, and yet we don't want to acknowledge it.
That's right.
We want to only talk about the physical things we can touch. Science has proven. I mean, there is scientific proof, and then there's a guy, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I can't say his name right ever, but he's a neuroscientist who actually teaches manifestation, the law of attraction from a scientific perspective because this is like legit real.
Because it all goes hand in hand.
It goes hand in hand. The fact that our cells look like the same stuff that's in the universe. Like, this is not made up stuff, but the fact that people want to only acknowledge the physical means that they're missing out on so much.
Right.
And you cannot, my hand doesn't move, my mouth doesn't move, I don't move without the other parts in alignment. So how do we only acknowledge that one part?
Right.
So the vibration that you carry, the energy that you are emitting, the frequency that you are in determines what you are a magnet for. And if I'm in a frequency of being a victim as a woman or as a black person or as an Asian person or as someone in the LGBT community, then I am think about what happened with Jesse Smollett from Empire.
Right.
He wanted to represent himself as a victim. But you see how messed up that was to perpetuate this mindset that they are being mistreated. You're being mistreated because you believe you're being mistreated. You're being mistreated because you are a magnet for being mistreated because you feel like people won't accept you because you don't accept you. You accept you. Be who you are in your own skin. And you all have seen examples of this all along where people will have some kind of condition, some type of this, some type of whatever, and if they're self-conscious about it, everybody's like whatever, and then you'll see people who overcome and act like it's not a big deal and nobody cares. Right. And that's a small example, but if you want to be treated like not a victim, if you don't want to be a victim, stop thinking like one, stop behaving like one, stop moving like one, and stop being in fear of an oppressor because you were the architect of your own reality.
That's deep. That is deep. So she's going so deep. Y'all gonna have to tune into her channel and everything like that. And I think that's just a fraction of what you bring in everything. Now is that all a part of the Kingmaker? Going back to the Kingmaker Queen, Um, that's all a part. Now, do you concentrate on just helping to develop men to understand that reality?
Oh no, it's so funny because one of my best friends is like, when I hear king, she's like, I identify with that. Like, and one, the queen maker would, unfortunately, because of the English language,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to call myself the queen maker, then men would not listen. So I mean, y'all would be like, that ain't for me. But
Now
what
we'd
I've
be like,
noticed,
I know I'm the queen maker. You can't be a queen without a king, right?
right, it would start all kind of mess. And so I realized that once I was called a kingmaker, what was being referenced was in reference to a man at the time. But I have not had one woman who doesn't identify. Men are the only people who ask me that question.
Mm.
Women are like, they understand that they have the right and the ability to be king, queen, whatever it is. It's
Mm.
just words. It's just words.
Right,
But
right,
the
right,
idea of it is to have access to this exaltation that will cause you to be able to live and be and do whatever it is that you desire,
right. Mm-hmm.
and to claim your crown and to take your throne.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about, so to answer your question, the privilege of oppression, for example, is a idea that I want, I had an opportunity to talk about, that is not being talked about that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so necessary that this perspective be heard.
Right, right.
So necessary. So within the Kingmaker Enterprises, as I said, everything within what I do is about some form of empowerment and elevation and expansion, right? So we've got the personal and spiritual development brand, which is the Kingmaker 444.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got, I have my fashion accessory lines, which we talked about, royally adorned. I'm gonna bring y'all some jewelry. Absolutely Ruthless, which
Mm-hmm.
is available at absolutelyruthless.com, which is an urban line. I mean, everything from swimsuits. You can actually see me wearing a swimsuit, one of the Absolute Ruthless swimsuits on my IG page. I have a crop top hoodie that I love that has Camilla Harris on the front, and it was when she was going, excuse me, I'm speaking, and it says, when the first black vice president of any gender is absolutely ruthless. So it's absolutely ruthless is all about being passionately authentic, having no one to impress, having nothing to prove, giving zero fucks, and being who you are, and having permission to do that. Then you have my bespoke clothing line that will be coming up, which is Gods and Kings and Gods and Queens, respectively. Then I have a financial services, insurance, and education firm called Life, which everything from legal insurance, final expense, legacy creation, wealth cultivation.
Mm.
Um, then I have a business-to-business resource. So we were doing some business coaching earlier before the cameras got turned on.
Right.
But Your Vital Solutions was sparked because when I first started my business back in 2015, I didn't know where to go. I didn't have any help. I didn't have somewhere to go to get all my stuff done and set up. My business formed, and I didn't know how to do it all. So it gave me the ability to be able to do that. So now I share that with others. So Your Vital Solutions is business resources and consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also have an automotive consulting company called Vital AAA. So it's Vital Automotive Acquisition Advantage. So I spent years in automotive industry, and people can hire me as a consultant to either tell them what to do or do the entire process for them, very concierge-like. And my deals are done within 24, 48 hours, and all they have to do is test drive and sign paperwork, and that's it.
Whew. If you don't think manifestation is real, you need to check her out. She like a Jamaican. I got 15 jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Except for none of them are jobs.
None of them are jobs. That is the dope part about it. She's a straight entrepreneur, and
You know what job means or stands for? Just over broke.
Just over broke. Ouch.
I honestly.
I bet you everybody gonna look at this. They're gonna be like, yeah. They're gonna be clutching their pearls like, oh.
But seriously, it was so important to me to have the freedom. I am a serial entrepreneur. I do, I own a corporation, but I do it because I get to do what I want to do. There's no one telling. I used to call my job chattel slavery, so I'm the wrong one. Like, there's people that's good for, and I think that's great if that's your thing. But so many people get stuck and capped financially
Right.
because they won't think outside of the box. They won't go. And I have a mentor. Her name is Amanda Francis, and she said this thing, and it grabbed my soul. And she was speaking to, because her business is focused on women entrepreneurs and helping them their voice come out and helping get money into the hands of good-hearted women who have something to say. And she goes, "Are you called or are you not?
Mm.
Do you have something to say or don't you? And if you do, then your responsibility is to say it."
Mm.
So that like pulled my soul, and I was like, so there's so many people who have a voice, which is why I love what you're doing here with Atlanta Unplugged. Like, you're giving a voice to the people who are underground, who everyone doesn't know about, which is why I think what you're doing is so valuable. But so many people won't even open their mouth and say the things or share their gifts because
Right.
they're too wrapped up. They don't have time because they got a job.
That's right. The job takes 40 hours of your life.
And when you have a job, your biggest expense in life is taxes. When you own a business, you get to spend all the money and pay the government last. You get to pay yourself first. In when you have a job, you pay the government first. So think about that's what your Vital Solutions is about. I want to encourage people to have and make it easy for them to start their business. And the consulting that the coaching, the mindset alchemy that I do under the Kingmaker brand and even under your Vital Solutions helps people want to be entrepreneurs start and get the gumption and the wind behind them to get their businesses going. I actually do group coaching sessions, business coaching sessions
Life
right now.
coach, something like that.
Yeah, so life coach, business coach.
Mm-hmm.
I can, because I live this, I can coach in any area. And if I don't know about it, I'll be happy to talk about, but I'll be happy to like direct people to where they can hear the information. But when you understand the premises that go behind most things, it allows you to be able to speak intelligently on most subjects.
Right.
Even if that particular thing is not something I've ever personally experienced.
Oh yeah.
If I know the mindset that caused it,
right.
if I know the energy,
the idea, the principle behind it, and everything like that,
then you can, and you all know that you can apply something that you learn in some other area of your life,
right.
and you can do very well in another industry or another area because you understand how it works.
Right.
So that's the way it is with me.
Right. Cool. So, let the Atlanta Unplugged audience know. Let them know something like, what is it that you want the people to know? It's like advice or something that you want, because I think the whole interview, you was getting off your chest what you want the people to know, but right, if you had to sum it up, go ahead.
You are powerful. You are magical. We think that magic doesn't, magic is just for kids watching Disney movies. But magic is real. There's actually a page on my website on thekingmakerqueen.com called Magic is Mathematics. And it talks about, like, from a scientific perspective, the amount of energy that our bodies, that our physical matter holds in comparison to, like, bombs. And when you look, so read it because it's very interesting. When you realize how powerful you are, then you were never a victim. You are the architect of your own reality.
Boom. And there you
Mic
have
drops.
it. Mic drops. Just don't drop this mic
Right,
because we ain't there yet. Where, you know what I'm saying? Where we could just drop mics and, take on that damage. But appreciate you coming on to the platform and everything.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You are a guest that should be spotlighted, and people will be able to receive a lot of good knowledge and wisdom and information. Make sure y'all tap into the Kingmaker Queen right here, and let the people know how they can tap into you.
Absolutely. So my website is thekingmakerqueen.com. From that website, there is a tab for the Kingmaker Enterprises where you can see all of my current and future divisions and things that I'm working on, and that I am in different ways that you can be empowered in different industries. My YouTube channel is the Kingmakers World Theater on YouTube, and then the Claim Your Crown podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and you can follow me at the Kingmaker Queen on IG and TikTok. And if it's not, and one of them is the Kingmaker Queen, but it's all me. There's nobody else. I'm the only Kingmaker Queen. So that should make it easy.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Oh, one last thing.
Go ahead.
I am doing this is a new launched group mindset alchemy immersion. So this came on the heels of people asking for more empowerment, to be to be immersed in the queendom a little bit more. So it's actually, enrollment ends May 7th. And if you want to, you can text. If you go to my IG or my TikTok, it'll tell you the number to text to get a coupon code to save. But you can be immersed in the queendom and be a part of group coaching sessions with me every single week. Ask questions, get answers, get help get relief in any area of your life. And this is something that I'm going to be doing as an ongoing thing. But anybody who signs up now is locked into this price for the life of and there's no contracts or anything like that. So you're in when you want to be, out when you don't want to be. But if you sign up like within the next week, then you are locked into this super low rate, even when the price goes up over time.
Oh, cool.
So you don't want to miss it.
Don't miss it. You heard it. And this is some great information, a great outlet for those that need to be able to find something to be able to help them move on.
Empower them, yep.
And empower themselves, especially during these days and times and everything. We really need this type of energy, and much respect. Much respect, you know what I mean? And we're going to chop it up some more later on, you know what I mean? I'm going to get more exclusive, you know what I'm saying, and get more in depth because it goes deep. But y'all could tune in, y'all could tap into her channel and everything. And thank y'all for coming to Atlanta Unplugged. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. We do this for the people. We like to spotlight everybody that is doing something magnificent within Atlanta and abroad. So tap in and stay tuned for the next one. I'm Steve Paul. And share it. And we out. Peace.